As a thought, as a concept, Himmelkraft is very old and has taken many different forms along the years. Like in the beginning, I figured it would be something like industrial metal, Rammstein kind of thing, and in some point it would have been very punkish kind of band, very simple, very basic things, only just the mere necessities happening there, and then finally, during the years, of course, I've wrote a lot of songs that would have been fitting for Himmelkraft in a way, in a certain iteration of it, but it always happened so that Songwriting managed to steal whatever songs I had ready for Himmelkraft, and it took a long time for me to get there, where I actually had at least one song that I knew for a fact that this is going to be one Himmelkraft song, and that was full steam ahead back, must have been like 2015, 2016, and from that starting point I knew what Himmelkraft would be like, sort of. I used that as a cornerstone, as a mold, if you will. Albeit, the album itself is very versatile, and it's by no means defined by any given song on the album. There is like so many different styles there, but they all still sound very much like Himmelkraft. And pistäpä paussi. The demos that I created to introduce Himmelkraft to the people working on it, they were very much ready in a way. Most of the elements that we now have on the actual album were there in one form or another, and you could really hear what this album was going to be like. Probably just missing vocals and the use of real drums instead of drum samples in any stage of the production was one defining factor, because it doesn't really this kind of drums, they don't work with modern metal, I think, at all, and which Himmelkraft is definitely not. It's leaning towards maybe 70s or around that time, where sounds were a little bit softer, and of course that forced and allowed us to work with the balance a little bit. We don't have any instrument on the background that is overpowering anything there, really. We tried to find a real balance between everything, that you can hear everything and everything sounds really good, and then you have the vocals on top of it, of course, conveying the melody, unless there is some other instrument which is doing that. And it came with a certain challenge, a lot of work, but it was really rewarding, making the whole album sound organic in that way, and having real strings and horns and such, and choirs, and it was a beautiful process, and I don't see any other way of handling Himmelkraft also in the future. The pandemic didn't really play a big role with Himmelkraft, apart from the recordings, of course, because the songs were ready around 2019, the whole album, maybe 2020, early of the year, but before the pandemic started, and we started the recordings, and of course, everybody having a lot of free time suddenly in their hands, it helped. We were able to play with a very loose schedule and just do our things whenever we felt like it, really, and it also probably made us finding the string players and horn players and the extra musicians on the album much easier, because they didn't have their day jobs to worry about as musicians, and so yeah, in that sense it made it easier, and of course the whole mood was much more mellow during the creation of Himmelkraft, because everybody get to hang out back home, and at least for me it was like that. I had been hoping and waiting for such a break, and I don't know what kind of schedule I would have been able to have with Himmelkraft had there not been the pandemic, even when it comes to myself, because we had tours booked for Sonata Arctica, and a lot of things might have been totally different had there not been such a world-stopping event happening, and so for me it served a purpose, and I'm I'm very happy with most of the things that I got to experience during the pandemic. For me, it was a good break from doing a lot of things. Yeah, Himmelkraft and Songwriting are very different animals. Of course, tigers and stripes. I can't deny the fact that I am still me, and I write songs in a certain way. And if you know my style through and through, then you can probably recognize me as a songwriter there. Definitely as a singer, I can't really help my voice. Even if I try to change it, you can still tell that it's me. But with my main band, Sonata, I have been, during the years, been forced to sort of change the style of the song from its original idea very much towards power metal. And that has happened so many times, and I've sort of grown tired of mutilating a beautiful song that wants to be a mid-tempo or a slow song and then turn it into a speedy power metal song. It's probably good for power metal song, yeah, but it feels bad here in the soul if you have to do that kind of thing. And Himmelkraft does not force me to do really anything. It's a like a soul healing process. I get to write songs just as they come and never change really anything. Himmelkraft doesn't force my hand in any direction. It just allows me to play around and have fun. And the songwriting process itself, it's not so much different from what I do with Sonata, for example, but certainly more free. I get to fool around with weird sounds and create things that I would not be able to do with Sonata because they would be considered somehow wrong and not appreciated. Unlike I hope with Himmelkraft, where they fit perfectly. The production of Himmelkraft did not really differ from any other album I've been part of that much. It was recorded during the pandemic, so of course, we didn't want to interact with too many people to start with. So it was basically the core band, bass, guitar, drums, myself as a keyboard player and singer, and then the mixer producer Mikko Tegelman, and all the external musicians. We just emailed them and talked on the phone and such ways. Things are often anyways done that way, so it was just like any other process. A lot of the musicians, they have their own facilities where they can record their stuff and have studio quality work and output. So it makes things easy and definitely cost effective. Not the most, not the way I would love to work most of the time, but it makes things possible sometimes. And when it comes to production and sounds, one big thing was Mikko Tegelman, definitely, and his knowledge of how sound works and all the ideas he's come up with during the years. He's been working in the business, and as we wanted to work with real sounds, real drum sounds especially, and he came up with beautiful ideas to make things sound a little bit different. Each drum track was sort of handcrafted to sound a little bit different from any other track, and some really fun ideas we tried there, and it turned out great. I'm very happy with the whole process itself. The arrangements and such, they were pretty solid. At that point when we went to studio, not too many things changed. Some great ideas, of course, here and there, but nothing really big. And yeah, it was a pleasurable, slow, easy process, really. At least for me. I don't know how the other guys see that, but for me, anyways. I don't think we really had any major issues while recording Himmelkraft. It was fairly easy. I think the biggest issue or problem was getting all the external musicians to do their stuff and sort of arranging them, the notation and stuff that they need to play, because I don't know how to do that myself. I work on MIDI mostly, so but luckily there was a guy who was able to produce the actual playable notes for those professional musicians from whatever I gave him, you know, the MIDIs and sound files to give them an idea what I'm after, what it should sound like, and it works beautifully. I didn't really myself find it too difficult in any point, you know. It's a lot of work, but fun. I'm very tired of the modern music production where everything is compressed and in your face. And with Himmelkraft, I wanted to go in a different way and use as many real musicians and instruments as possible because, you know, it allows me to have happy accidents happening on the album. The personality of the musicians come through in some moments there, and it's so much better to have that instead of from the box, out of the box kind of instruments from sample thingies. So yeah, it was definitely the road I wanted to take with Himmelkraft. Now that it was possible to do that, so. There are a few songs that are more like cornerstones when it comes to introducing the concept of Himmelkraft, like Crystal Cave, which is about the creation, how things started really, and Uranium, the first single, which is about how they found and the way to propel their things. They were using diesel at the beginning, but you know, it obviously comes with certain health risks in the long run, and that they were introduced to uranium eventually in the 1940s or 30s, and they started using that and so forth. There are a few songs like, well, Dog Bones, for example, then is it has this blue color, white color setup where one of group of people they are doing the tunneling and sort of stuck in that, traveling the world, just tunneling and never really getting to see their families, whereas the white color group are just, you know, making decisions that are not always correct in the minds of the blue collar people. And so it's a normal political setup there, and it's just, you know, same as any other world. But well, to mention a few, those are really some of the cornerstones that introduce certain aspects of Himmelkraft and how things are there. But, you know, there's so much more, of course. I have known the Himmelkraft author Sonja Arastio since she was born. Then 30 odd years ago. She's a daughter of my dear friend, and you know, been following her life and career from the distance for a very long time now, and it's been wonderful to see her grow up to be this young aspiring author, writer, very talented. And you know, now that I came up with an idea to expand these Himmelkraft stories, I didn't even think about anybody else. She was my first option, and luckily she had time to and a chance to come and work with me on this project, and I'm super happy with the outcome, the way she researched so many things and came up with a lot of things that it didn't even cross my mind. She really created the meat around the bones that I had offered her, you know. I gave her, of course, the lyrics of the songs, and then sort of expanded the idea. I explained what's happening in the song, and she just went from there to create this beautiful story narrative of Himmelkraft. And I just hope I am able to do the same thing with the next Himmelkraft album one day.